Hi everyone, welcome back to Kama Mahako channel. I'm continuing the reading from Prayer to the Motivator. I think I left off the last video. I had not finished chapter 2. So I'm just going to finish up chapter 2 and then move on to chapter 3. Alright, so these are the last 2 pages of chapter 2. And of course I have Kim and Zande with me. Say hi. Say hi to my babies. Alright, so they're always with me. My daughter has not expressed that she wants back Zande as yet, so he's still with me. And you know, Kim is always my little pet. Alright, so continuing chapter 2. I handed in my essay to Mrs. Massop as promised. Mrs. Massop eyed me suspiciously as I placed my paper on top of the stack of other essays. She rubbed her hands together as if she couldn't contain her joy. She knew she was in for a treat. Let's see what Delroy has in store for us today, she announced wickedly. Delroy, if only you'd work on your spelling. You have such clever ideas. It's her usual lecture each time. Each time I hand in my paper. It's a habit she can't break out of. So I gear up for it, and now I'm so used to it that if she didn't sing that jive, I wouldn't feel normal. But still, she shouldn't make such a fuss. I had her in Form 1, so she already knew beforehand that I'm no spelling bee. More and more, this English thing is getting to me. If there was, say, a set of rules that you could stick to, with give and take a few exceptions to those rules. Then that would be fine. You could study those rules and stick to them. But the rules of the English language, if you abide by them, will get you into trouble. For instance, if the past tense of bake is baked, then the past tense of take should be taked. Or, the other way around, if the past tense of take is took, then the past tense of bake should be book. Am I wrong or am I right? Correct me if I'm wrong because I'm only 12. Godfrey says I carry on too much about being 12. It's just a number, he says. He's 12 too, and I don't see him getting all excited and pretending to be king. That's what he says. He thinks that all 12 does is sit idly all day. Well, I've got news for him. It takes 12 things to make a dozen. It takes 12 months to make a year. There are 12 hours on the face of a clock. When they needed a number to represent the zodiac, which number did they call? The number 12. The Christians will tell you that there were 12 disciples. Even the math tables are written in groups of 12. And when they needed a strong number to bridge the gap between 11 and 13, which number came to the rescue again? Number 12. It takes 12 times 12 items to make a gross. 12 is a good round number, a very busy number indeed. So next time you think 12 isn't special, think again. I'm proud of my 12-year-old body. Think about it. In 12 long years, I've had no broken bones, despite many falls. I've had no gland removed, unlike Miguel, who had his tonsils taken out in primary school, or Lisa, who had her adenoids removed last month. My teeth are intact, except for maybe a cavity or two, but nothing major. I have regular bowel movements. The only blotch on my record is that, truth be told, I sometimes suffer from an infestation of worms, and once or twice a year I have to be dewormed with herbal teas and garlic juice. My mother blames it on the fact that I refuse to wear shoes around the yard. But considering, worms are the least that can happen to you. And besides, who can show me the 12-year-old boy who doesn't have worms? Moving on to chapter 3. It's been almost 3 weeks since I last wrote, so I have a bit of filling in to do. First things first. I got into a bit of trouble with Mrs. P due to an incident involving the windshield of her car. The windshield was smashed beyond repair. Now, the plot to break the windshield of Mrs. P's car was not originally my idea. Sean Douglas came over to me and said, "Everyone else is gathered in the hall for devotion. There's nobody looking. Let's break the windshield and run." So I said, "Okay, you break the windshield and I'll run." Then I reconsidered. What was there to lose? Sean Douglas is a rebel without a cause. He breaks glass just for the sake of breaking glass. That's not my style. But here he was, presenting me with a real opportunity to make a point to Mrs. P that if she drives in a car that has a windshield, she shouldn't park it in a schoolyard full of stones, teeming with stone throwers, the very stone throwers that she ought to set on the right track, but won't. She had no evidence to tie me to the windshield incident. I was only brought in for questioning, since it was generally felt that I had ample motive, ample opportunity, and the guts to carry it out. I was released with a firm warning that should the slightest evidence against me present itself, there would be no mercy. No mercy. Tori wanted to swap marbles with me. I have big, pretty marbles. Tori has the small, dull-looking ones that never glow, even when you hold them up to the sun and beg the sun, please. I have a proud collection of first-class marbles. But since I always know where to get more, I told him that I would sell him 3 for 50 cents or 6 for 80 cents. He backed down from the deal. I suspect it was the said Tory who left bubblegum on my chair, and it took me almost 2 hours to scrape it from the back of my pants. If he had wanted to let out his anger regarding the marbles, he didn't have to hide behind the bubblegum thing. Had he been a fellow who knew how to bargain, I would have easily let him have the 6 marbles at 70 cents, thereby saving himself a whole 10 cents for tamarind balls. 2 weeks ago, we had a rude awakening. The boys were asked to go outside while the girls were allowed to remain inside the classroom. We did as we were told. Now, this was a new thing for us, getting 1 whole hour free. Some boys just counted their blessings and went to blow away the hour playing marbles. But curiosity got the better of most of us. We lingered outside the classroom, wondering what to make of it. Some sat and leaned close to the walls to try and hear what was going on. Others who could climb and who were not contented with just hearing, crept silently up to the window and tried to have a look. I confess now that I was among the climbers. The whole gist of the matter, when we pieced it all together, is that a lady from the Ministry of Health had come to counsel the girls in, shall we say, girl talk. Girl talk as in things that girls should know beforehand so they don't get hysterical when it finally happens. Like menstruation. Only a handful of the boys who were eavesdropping outside actually knew what it was, which is why I still feel it was a wrong move to send the boys out in the first place. Wrong move. Yes, the girls finally got a chance to clear up some nagging questions. Many of them seemed relieved. Some were shocked, some cried. Then the lady from the Ministry of Health, with the help of our form teacher, Miss Douglas, went along the rows distributing sanitary napkins to the girls. Then there was a distribution of little booklets. Then more words of guidance. Then it was safe to call us boys back in. We didn't let them know that we were on to them. When I saw Tilisha at recess, I asked her if her period had come yet. She said no, and that she wouldn't tell me when it comes either, because that's her private business, and I don't hear her asking me if I get wet dreams. I don't see what there was to be so uppity about. It's only blood, like we don't all have blood. I'm already on my way through puberty, what with me being 12 and all. No facial hair yet, but I'm keeping a sharp lookout. Once or twice I've caught my mother boasting about her sons whose voices are getting deep. And look out for the shoulders. They're coming along. Some boys in my class, poor fellows, have shown no growth shoulder-wise. And they still have the same voice they sparred with last year in Form 1. Others, on the other hand, have grown extra tall, have extra deep voices, and even a facial hair or two to back that up. They get teased about it. I get teased because I'm short and stocky. Mrs. P says that I am a 21-year-old spirit encaged within a 12-year-old body. She says this often, but especially as a kind of preamble before she hands down my punishment. Now that I remember, she said it too this morning at devotion when I raised the issue of the right of students to carry knives to school for the purpose of peeling oranges and for scraping away bubble gum that someone has unscrupulously left on your seat. All oranges, she said, should be taken to the canteen to be peeled by Miss Elaine, the cook, who, quite unfairly, is the only legal knife holder in the whole entire school, apart from Mr. Neville, the gardener. As to the issue of bubblegum, why scrape them off if they're going to be put back there by tomorrow anyway? No, that's the principal who said that. So when we returned to the classroom after the girls had hidden away their sanitary napkins, there was a different feeling in the air. They sat with their heads high in the air and gleamed at us with the brightest, boldest, most intimidating eyes, as if to say, "Aha, we know now, so don't bother to think life is going to be the same after this. There are going to be some changes around here." And it scared us. Not all the girls put on airs. Maxine, the monitress, was friendly and calm as usual. She's always trying to maintain order. She's proud and clean and hardworking. I like her. Debbie Ann, who was my best friend in Form 1, was still her cheerful, friendly self. Shanria, too, was still reachable from Earth. Most students in the class make fun of Shanria. Her father is also her grandfather, but I wasn't the one who told you so. Elizabeth, of course, was none the better for the counseling session. She is 11 and she still wants to be 8. She was skipping around the classroom singing, "Ha, ha, ha, happy are we, all the little children and the teacher and me." It's a song they teach you at basic school, and God knows Elizabeth should know better than to migrate to Form 2 of secondary school with that jingle still in her head. Worst of all, on that day when all her other comrades were going through their rites of passage. Talisha will be skipping one form because they say that she's extra bright. Instead of completing the year in Form 1 after the midterm, she will be allowed to come up to Form 2. For the whole term, she had been charming the teachers with her high grades. The other students in her class, who as a result of her brilliance have been made to look like dunspots, won't mind her promotion at all, at all, at all. The thing with Talisha is she's moody. This minute she's with you, next minute she's not. She has one of those umbrellas with the pretty floral patterns and a raincoat to match, and she takes them out in the mildest drizzle or even if the sky gets cloudy, just in case. Not that I'm saying that people shouldn't have raincoats and umbrellas, even the ones with bright, pretty floral patterns. But you don't have to be a show-off and let your friends feel bad because they don't have any. My mother promised me a raincoat last year, but she hasn't gotten around to buying it yet. I had an umbrella, but you know how it is. Once one spoke gets bad, then the rest is history. And anyhow, that's another matter. I was telling you about Miss Talisha. She's learning to sew and cook in home economics class, and if you ask me, it is getting to her head. She is so proud of her embroidery work that she carries it around with her all the time, thread, needles and all, so that everyone can see her doing it even while walking home. The patterns vary. Sometimes there are birds decked in red, blue, green and yellow embroidery thread. Sometimes there are fruits in baskets cut out from various fabric and patched onto a kitchen towel. Other times there are 2 verses of poems embroidered into the pockets of aprons with chain stitch. One day when I was overcome with feelings of love and devotion, and I was feeling trembly and weak in the knees, I sat down and wrote Talisha a love letter. One of the best love letters that will ever come from a 12-year-old boy. Talisha ignored my letter. She did not respond to it at all. I was heartbroken and sad for 4 whole days. So you see, the girl has no love in her heart, no love at all. On top of that, she has started to use hair relaxer. It's a common practice once they get to Form 1. They trade their rich, thick, woolly hair for a longer, thinner version. It's easier to comb, she told me, and it smells even nicer now too. That's the next thing that is getting to her head. And did I tell you about the raffle tickets? She's selling raffle tickets now, and cookies too. She's in the Girl Guides, so you can't touch her now because she's a salesperson. But the worst blow to my spirit came on sports day. I competed in the races and I came in last 3 times straight. The field was stony, slippery, and full of cowage. I'm in greenhouse. There are 7 houses. I've always been in greenhouse. In the end, my house placed 4th overall, but that doesn't cancel out my coming last 3 times straight. And the worst thing is that I had told Talisha, make sure to watch because I'm gonna come first. The children sang and cheered on the competitors, but did that help me one bit? After the races, I wanted to walk with Talisha across the tracks. I wanted to show her the stones and the cowage that I was telling her about, but she didn't want to come. Well, that's that. Roger got into trouble at the shopping center. They're not supposed to go there after school in their uniforms anyway. Some of them go into the stores and buy things. Some steal things. Well, a few days ago, Roger got caught stuffing a chocolate bar into his pants pocket. He got a fine whipping from the manager at the store, a fine whipping from Mrs. P when the manager escorted him back to school, and a fine whipping from his mother when Mrs. P took him home. He wasn't at school the next day. The children who live close to him say that he was swollen all over, but after that he was in very much high spirits. Many children steal things from the stores. They brag about it too and compare their loot. It's just that this time Roger got caught. They hide away in shops and play video games. They rent skating shoes and go skating. They go into pet shops and buy goldfish. They linger at the bus stop and don't board the buses until very late in the evenings. Some of them even go to watch pornographic films, and the greedy managers let them in at the same adult price. I warn Mrs. P every day that she has her work cut out for her. They have no home training, these children. They eat in the classrooms when Mrs. P has told them time and time again, all eating must be confined to the canteen. They eat during class, they talk with their mouths full, they make quite a commotion when someone has broken wind, as if the poor soul could help it. The boys especially take comic strips to school and hide them in the middle of their textbooks. And they ridicule their teachers. They are merciless. Elizabeth, the class clown, only asks those riddles that everyone knows the answers to. Riddle me this, riddle me that, guess me this riddle, or perhaps not. What now, Elizabeth? Room full, hall full, can't get a spoonful, Elizabeth shouts. Smoke, they all reply. You see what I mean? I warn Mrs. P every day. My mother signed me up for extra lessons. I don't mind extra lessons. My mother wants me to work on my spelling. The only time I skip extra lessons is when I have important business at the library. Like now that I'm planning to break the tank open and free the fish. We're almost up to date now, except for a handful of things that I need to tell you about. As of today, I'm going to try and write more often because I can't bear it when things pile up. Tori had an attack of asthma. He's allergic to chalk dust and he sits at the front of the class to prove it. 3 times in 1 week, he had to be rushed to the place where they have a special chair reserved for him and an oxygen mask with his name on it. I'm not joking. The students in my class are plagued with maladies. Half the class has asthma. Tori gets his attacks mainly when he is called to the board to work math sums on account of the chalk dust. Lisa, who sits 3 benches down from the teacher's desk, has rheumatic fever. She misses Spanish class every Monday because her mother takes her to her rheumatic fever to get her rheumatic fever shots. Natalie Bartley has shingles. When she's in her mood, she lets you come and have a look at the rashes on her back. Sophia has sickle cell disease, a fact which she uses to try to make herself permanently exempt from physical education class. But sometimes it backfires. Miguel, of course, has water settling on his brain. I have long suspected it. How else can you explain his sudden relapses into stupidity? There are certain students in the class who curry favor up to the teacher and expect to get good grades on account of their pretty looks. They love to sit in the teacher's lap. They love to take juice and sandwiches for the teacher, and they are always the first to jump to the board and alert the teacher of their enthusiasm. But they rarely get one sum right, not one sum right. And they are always the first in line to have their picture taken. Yes, we have our pictures taken once a year. It's the school's policy to record the photogenic progress of every student. So, like it or not, once a year we are rounded up to smile for the camera. A smile is a tricky thing. Smiles aren't always pleasant, much as they've given a lot of hype. Happiness, which is traditionally represented by a smile, isn't always genuine. No matter what the aches and pains last Thursday, no matter what the poor grades and broken homes, there were smiles galore. The girls groomed up for a whole half hour in the bathroom. They only filed out when Mrs. P went in and threatened them that the cameraman was leaving. They came out pouting because somehow none of them was convinced that she was ready yet. I went and had my picture taken promptly after the rush of the curry favor posse. Better to get it over with quickly, I figure, because no matter what you do, the camera is going to plot against you anyway. I've seen students cry over pimples that mysteriously showed up on the photographs when they swear no pimple was there when the photograph was being taken. I've seen them equally distressed over eyelids that close just at the time of the flash, just at that crucial moment when your eyes are supposed to be open. I've heard them curse the cameraman for snapping the picture when they weren't ready yet, when they were just about to pose properly, and when they didn't get to hide the gap where their permanent teeth hadn't grown in as yet. So I didn't bother with the fanfare. I sat, greeted the flash, and got up. Then came Miguel, wearing a 4-inch smile. Usually, when the pictures come back, the students exchange them. I'm still going to give one to Talisha, even though she's so moody. I sit at the back of the class near to a window. That way you get to see what the other children are up to. It's a lie that only dunce bats sit at the back of the classroom. If you're a boy like me who likes to get the full scope of what's happening, then the back of the class is your best pick. Our form teacher, Mrs. Douglas, took her 2-year-old son to school last Friday. She's pregnant now with another child. This one will be a girl, I just know it. The son's name is John, and if you're familiar with names and personalities, you know that John more or less translates to trouble. And with him being 2, the trouble has started to kick in. He amused the children because he imitated everything that they did. He saw someone put a bit of paper into the rubbish bin, and from then on he started throwing everything that he could hold into the rubbish bin. I mean books, attendance register, chalk, pencils, charts, even his mother's handbag and the foot of her shoe. Mrs. D is in the habit of taking off her shoes sometimes. The art teacher, to whom every collision of crayon and paper is a priceless masterpiece, has informed me that I have artistic talent. This coming hot on the heels of the science teacher reading my project out to the whole class, you can very well understand that my head is spinning. But I don't agree that I have artistic talent at all. The things that I draw hardly ever turn out as planned. Then when I look at the works of other children who have also received critical acclaim, it gives you reason to harbor your doubts as to the true value of yours. On Monday, which marked the beginning of this school week, there was a small fire in the kitchen at school. Miss Elaine was hysterical. The children were excited beyond measure. Mrs. P got a lecture from the head of the fire department, who had warned her time and time again to install fire extinguishers. This was the 3rd small fire in 3 small years. The next one might be bigger, said the head of the fire department. We can't take any chances. Mrs. P promised again to install the extinguishers. She promised solemnly. Scout's honor. On Tuesday, I didn't go to school because there was a thunderstorm, which started from 4 in the morning and lasted far into Tuesday night. No one left the house, not even my mother, who isn't afraid of thunder. There was a bit of flooding in the valley. Watching from the window, you figured that you could sail model boats outside in the yard. On Wednesday afternoon, Miguel, Maxine, and I went to Lisa's house to do homework. Our form teacher placed us in a group and we have to work together on an assignment which is due in 2 weeks. Lisa's mother brought us snacks. Lisa's father is a doctor. She lives in one of those houses where you have to climb stairs to gain access to the bedrooms. Her mother drove us there in the car. Lisa's bathroom has wallpaper all around and carpet on the floor. Apart from the section of the bath which has the dandiest tiles you've ever seen. Lisa says they are Spanish tiles. From Spain, that is. Lisa's bathroom smells of lavender and potpourri, and there are colored soaps with blue bows and ribbons around them. And there are 10 marble figurines on shelves in the corner near the bathroom organizer. There were 12 originally, but Miguel stole 2. Which brings us to yesterday, Thursday, when I skipped school. I spent the whole day at the library. This library is mine. At any time I want, I can sit and rap with whichever book I choose. I simply take down the book of my choice, open it to the page I like best, and get to rapping. I was so busy rapping yesterday, in fact, that I got locked into the library. I had to spend the night there. I wasn't scared. I was reading the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, a man who, incidentally, was short and stout like myself and big on ideas as I am. A mosquito had been bothering me for quite a while, disturbing my reading. After a while, I decided it would be all right to allow her to have a little bite. Only female mosquitoes suck blood, as you know. So when she came in for the dive, I did not fan my arm in the air to drive her away. I muscled up and took my bite, sure that now she would leave me in peace to devour my book. She did, which proved what I'd always known. I have good pure blood and mosquitoes find it quite satisfying. But she only left to spread the news of my charity to her cronies. And in no time I was surrounded by a swarm of ravenous mosquitoes, hungry for good pure blood. Naturally, this time I had to put my foot down. I whacked them with Mr. Garvey. My mother was furious when I came home this morning. She had been worried to pieces and was on the verge of madness. She had called every number she knew. Mrs. P, of course, added to the drama by informing my mother that I had not been in school all day. My poor mother, who had assumed that I was probably already dead or at least starving, called the police. The police, accompanied by a sleepy and miserable Mrs. T, unlocked the door of the library at 3 a.m. this morning and took me home. I explained to my mother that I had been accidentally locked in, which wasn't exactly a lie unless